Hello YouTube and welcome to Old Maryland 63 C10. Today is episode 3 and we are working on removing the front clip off of Hank. So if you have a 60 to 66 C10 and looking to remove your front clip, or you already have yours off and maybe you want a refresher on how it was attached, stick around and watch us remove Hank's. Okay, welcome back. So let's get started working on the front clip. So as you can see, I had some help this weekend, so I took the hood off to make that a little easier. And I'm going to look at removing the front clip in basically 3 parts. So we're going to do the things underneath, which is going to be the bumper, the core support, 2 core support bolts, and then there's 2 bolts on either side in the fender well and that attach to the cab. So we're going to start there, then we'll come up on top, and then we'll start working on the wiring and the other items in the engine bay. Just like we did on the bed of the truck, we were careful with pulling the wiring out. We're gonna redo all the wiring, but I wanna be careful when I pull it out and leave as much as I can attached to the front clip that is attached to the front clip. Again, just so it's there when I go to put it back together and I'm putting a new wiring harness in, I can then follow what's there. Then once we do that, then we'll do the last couple bolts at the top, which a couple of them are underneath of the cowl and right here at the firewall. So let's get started underneath the truck. Okay, so we're underneath the truck here, looking at the couple bolts holding on the front bumper on this driver's side. So we have the 2 bolts here holding the front bumper of the frame, and then we have one tucked up in there that holds the brace that goes out to the edge of the bumper. So we're going to get some ratchets on these and see if we can break these loose. And just like with the rear bumper, I'm gonna leave this top bolt in so that it doesn't fall on me, and I'm gonna get out from underneath the truck and then hopefully be able to pick it off and take the bolt out without any problems. So let's see if we can get our wrenches on here and get these couple bolts out. Okay, so we're back under the truck. The front bumper came off no problem. So now our next move, working our way back on the front clip, is to get this nut and bolt out that holds the front radiator support down. I took the other side off, needed a little bit of persuasion, but got it off. Did find the first little bit of rust that I didn't see underneath of this part of the radiator support. So I'm not sure what this side looks like yet because we're still obviously trying to get the bolt out. But as you can see, these bushings are completely shot. There's not much left of the top one. I don't think there's anything left of the bottom one. So let's go ahead and get this bolt out. I had to use chisel and a couple of things to whack this thing around to be able to get the bushings to fall out. So hopefully this side will go a little bit smoother, but let's go ahead and knock this one out. Okay, well, I got the bolt out and you can see a lot of dirt and dust flying out of there. So probably had some moisture. So I'm wondering when this comes apart, what this will look like underneath of here. But that part's done. Let's move to the 2 bolts that hold the inner part of the fender to the cab and the outside fender to the cab. Okay, so we're moving a little bit further back on the fenders. So right now we're still underneath the truck, but we're going to work on getting this bolt out, which attaches the inner fender well to the cab. While I'm on this side, on the driver's side, I'm going to go ahead and remove this cover that covers the steering column as it comes down out of the cab. So we're going to get that out of the way. Obviously the passenger side doesn't have that, it just has the 1 bolt. And then we'll move down to this bolt down here that holds on the outer fender to the outer part of the cab. Okay, a couple things to note. Number one, that bolt was a little bit of a challenge to get out, and that is it going to focus for us? Is kind of an ugly looking bolt. So what I did was I was backing it out, sprayed some WD-40, screwed it back in to try to not pull all that gunk through the nut. It's one of the reasons why I'm using all my ratchets right now and not my air tools, because I probably could have put an impact on that and it would have pulled it through, but it might have destroyed the nut that was behind there. And while this brace might need some repair based on looking at the outside fender, if I can salvage it, I want to salvage it, and didn't want to round the nut or break the nut loose because the nut's just, tacked on the inside of that brace. The other thing that came out, and I will be keeping track of, is this shim. This shim was between the cab brace and the fender. And I will say that before I started pulling this apart, I did look at all the seams, and they're in pretty good shape. I mean, again, it's all from the factory. None of the factory body lines and seams were perfect, but again, keeping our goal in mind with this truck to be a driver, I'm okay with the way it is. So I will be labeling all these shims as this comes apart so I can put them back in the same place. Okay, so the first part of the project is done underneath. Got the bumper and the bolts out from underneath. Now we're going to start working in the engine compartment. Pulling out hoses, wires, other things that are connected, and again, trying to leave things together and attach to the front clip where I can, but otherwise just basically getting things out of the way. So I'm going to put the camera on time lapse so we can get through this side, then we'll switch over and we'll look at that side. Okay, we're moving into the last phase of removing the front clip. So underneath of the cowl panel are two more of the last bolts I have in the front clip. Now I can already see there's shims under these two. I would imagine there's shims under those. And again, the body lines aren't bad, they're not perfect, but they're from the factory like this. So I'm gonna, again, mark everything and try to put everything back. So all we need to do right now is knock the cowl off and then take these two bolts out and we should be ready to go. Gotta obviously do both sides, but then we'll be ready to go. And hopefully the last two bolts on this side. And forget what I just said because I have two more bolts. Okay, let's do the other side and we'll be done. So I had a little oversight. This little bracket or piece of sheet metal here that I guess closes up the fender, in order to slide it off, that's got to come out. So that was pretty easy, just two little 3/8 bolts that comes out. Okay, so here's an example where I overestimated or made a wrong guess in trying to get the front clip off. So hopefully this will help you guys in the future. I was thinking I would be able to lift the front clip up and move it straight forward, but with the deluxe heater option in this truck, this heater box is in the way of the fender clearing the inside of the inner fender and the outside of the cab. So we're gonna have to remove this. Again, I was hoping to leave this on the cab, but we're gonna go ahead and take this off and come back to be able to hopefully remove the clip. Okay, we've got the heater box out of the way. Not too much of a big deal, just a lot of little tiny screws to keep track of. So let's see if we can go ahead and get the front clip off. Okay, so I've taken the time to label all the bolts and the shims and make a little sketch of all the hardware that came off the front clip. So we have the inner panel that goes around the steering column, the bumper bolts, and again, this is the driver's side panel, and I did the same thing for the passenger side panel. So I labeled the different shims, so for driver side lower, driver side upper, and I made a little notes or drawings or sketch, whatever you want to call it, to be able to label things, and each will get their own bag. And again, this is all going in a box, and the box will be labeled as well, because again, if this is a year-long project, I want to make sure I can remember where everything went when I put it back together. This might be a little bit of an overkill, but again, this is just something that's going to help me remember where all my pieces go, and that hopefully the truck can go back together in a pretty straightforward way. Just another note that's kind of interesting, this truck has a radio delete, so my cowl panel doesn't have a antenna hole. So it's a solid panel, so in case I do something else besides a radio, I don't have to worry about fixing or repairing or filling a hole in my cowl panel. So let's get all these pieces put away. I'll be right back. Okay, so we got the front clip off of Hank. It's sitting down here on the floor of the garage. Came off pretty smoothly. Had to do some wiggling and some lifting and some other things to get it off, but it is off the truck and right now on the ground, getting ready to get stored for the build. So let me bring you in close and show you a couple things we discovered as we were taking the front clip off. As we figured, or as I figured, this brace on this side is pretty much shot. The outside of this fender is rough, and from almost the very bottom there up to practically where it bends around the top of the fender is bad. So that brace is eventually going to have to get replaced. This bracket here, the bolt's in it, but the bolt just spins. I'm not sure, it gets tight, but I'm not sure exactly why that was so hard, so I just took it off from the cab. The battery box is not in bad shape. It's a little bent up, got some rust in it. I'm not sure what we'll do with that. This corner looks like it might have had a little bit of a whack in it, because this is kind of pushed in here a little bit. A little bit of rust in this area right here. Like I said, some of the panels look a little bit out of line, but not really sure there. And then moving over to this side looks pretty good. Again, a little bit of rust in the top of the inner panel here. This inner fender brace back here, oddly enough, the bottom looks really good. Kind of surprised with that, but this outside piece here, about midway up, so from the middle of the brace is bad. Not sure how it rotted in that area and didn't rust below. So not sure what I'll do with that when I eventually fix this fender, if I'll replace just that center section or that whole brace. I did find, you won't be able to see underneath, of course, but right back in that corner there is where the front radiator support mounts to the frame. And there was some rust underneath there. I don't know how bad until I turn it over and really get a look at it, but there was some rust in that area. Just tied up the wires to itself right here, just so they're in one spot, so I have where they were routed. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got something out of it as far as removing the front clip off of Chevy C10. So in our next episode, we're gonna start working on the cab, and that'll be episode 4. So hope to see you then. Thanks.